No.
Do you want the spot?
No.
Buddy,
He's not. Not
okay,
at all.
all right, good to know.
He's definitely.
He wouldn't let me sit here if he was your friend, right? He would have said,
He would have said that's.
that's right. Except
Wait, which one's Chris again? Okay.
Chris, it's good to meet you. I'm Nick.
All right, so are you ready for me to begin?
Hey, Nick, I'm Harrison.
Excellent. So, wow, can you guys hear me? Assuming yes. All right, so welcome to the panel. This panel is how to not get into the games industry. It's a little bit different from your typical how to get into the games industry. And I'll go into that in just a minute. But first, I am going to let our illustrious award-winning panel introduce themselves. So starting at the far end.
I'm Sandy DiCocco, Chief Administrative Officer at Tripwire Interactive.
I'm Harrison Pink. I'm a designer at Hangar 13 Games.
I'm Nick Laing. I'm senior producer for Forza Motorsport.
I'm Chris Rickwood. I'm a freelance composer, sound designer.
And I'm Thomas Holt. I'll be moderating tonight, and I am an art director at Hi-Rez Studios for Paladins. So the topic tonight is how not to get in the games industry. And I think for a lot of people, both that have already been in the industry and especially for those wanting to break in, it's probably the most important topic. So there's a lot of stuff out there as far as how to get in. It's how to best show your work, the fact that you have to have good work, who you know, and how to do those elements. But having been a hiring manager for quite a while, you first have to get past the filter. And a lot of that is that people make horrible mistakes all along the way. And this is probably the nicest, most apologetic part of this entire panel for you. And so I want you ahead of time apologize and say, I'm sorry if you've done these things, if you are continuing to do these things, if these are things that are present in your portfolio or your website. This is said in love. But what you have before you is a vast amount of industry experience and people who actually have the power to bring people into the industry or get people jobs in the industry, telling you the things that please, for the love of God, do not do if you want to join us. So, and we see it all the time. And honestly, hundreds and hundreds of applicants across the different positions, it's a lot easier to filter out. And generally, it's trying to get to that position where you can actually come in, show your skill set, show that you have what it takes for the job and get there. And there's a lot of pitfalls along the way. So that's kind of an introduction for the panel, kind of for the tone as well. I'm sure we'll hear some somewhat humorous stories, maybe less humorous for those that probably are doing the same thing. If it's about you particularly, we promise we will not name names. So, we'll go from there. So I want to kind of start with this. We're going to go kind of topic by topic, because different people make mistakes at different stages in the hiring kind of process. And one of the first steps, especially for artists, but probably also for audio, definitely for design along the way, is they make the mistake in what they choose to put in their portfolio. And so I just want to kind of open that up to the panel for people who want to jump in. When people are choosing what work to showcase or how they present themselves as a tradesman, as a skills person, as an artist, what have you guys seen that is just for you and absolutely like, okay, pass?
I would say that I've seen a lot of design portfolios. Is this thing on? Can everyone hear me? Okay. I've seen a lot of design portfolios of people who don't know what kind of design they want to get hired for. I've seen tons of portfolios for people who have environmental design, systems design, narrative design. It's all on like the same portfolio, and you have to sort of scroll for a million years to get to the thing you're looking for. So I would say like that's a great way to not get hired, is to make a really long page that I get tired scrolling through looking for the thing that's applicable to the job that I'm trying to hire somebody for. Someone else want to jump on with that?
I would say an audio. How many audio people are here? One, Mark, and good. There's
3, 4, 5. Wow.
There's 4.
That's more audio people.
That's more than
I've seen in
That's the
the
most
industry
audio
in the
people have
last
ever
5
seen
years.
in a room.
You're all hired. Okay, so I think the biggest thing for audio is if you're doing a sound. This is more composers posing as sound designers. I see a lot of sound design demos that are actually just kind of like, hey, I want in the door, but I actually want to be a composer. If you want to be a sound designer, be a sound designer. If you want to be a composer, be a composer. Make 2 separate demos. And I would even have like 2 separate websites. Like, hey, here's my sound design website. Here's my composer website. If you want to be a voiceover director, or voice actor, that's a whole other thing. But separate that, just at least separate them out. Because if I'm looking for a sound designer, I don't want to hear a video that has this huge score over and I can't hear what you're doing sound design wise. So just separate the two.
Yeah, I think that applies in art as well. Like very often it's like if I'm hiring for a character modeler or environment artist or something like that, it's like I get a portfolio and it has animation, it has modeling, it's essentially everything they did. And especially through school, I know the whole demo reel thing is really big. It's still really big. At least they're not showing up on VHS anymore. But it's kind of outdated. It's really is like that's what you're doing and that's what you're learning. And school does a good job of that, right? Where you get to test all the different waters and try all the different things. But when you're applying for a position, we do take time to put into the position listing what we're looking for, the fact that it is a very specific role and job on probably a very specific project. And so when that application comes in and when that art's there, I want to see that as well. I don't want to like scroll through and be like, okay, wait, so he said he's an environment artist, but I've watched like 3 minutes of a reel now, and I still haven't seen an environment yet. I'm still seeing character art. I'm still seeing, the modeling or animation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, make different reels. And this is the same thing with design. Like, I would watch a lot of, like, 2 or 3 minute reels, and they shouldn't be any longer than 30 seconds because we have to watch, like, dozens of those. And just because yours is longer doesn't mean it's going to stick in your mind any longer than anyone else's. So, if you, like you said, if you're a character artist, make a character reel, environment reel, a prop reel, or for design, like, if you made a board game, that's cool. Do, like a motion graphics thing of the game actually being played in 30 seconds so I can get an idea of how it plays so you don't just put like the entire manual, like the PDF of the manual on the page, which I've seen people do. Like every page of the manual is just on their portfolio. You have to scroll through every single one and read every single one to get it. Just get it to me as quickly as you possibly can. Make different websites even. Just like split it out in such a way that I don't have to go searching for the stuff that I want, because I'm not going to do that. I'm just, even if you give me a link, like a direct link to the page, it still sometimes is easy to screw that up. And a lot of times when we send stuff around the office, if you have a video or a reel, that link gets sent without any context of like the rest of your page. So put all the information in that reel that you want, that's even on your website. So like if you're gonna break down something, or if you have like, if you're making a game, say like it's a 4-person co-op shooter or whatever, like put that stuff in the reel and in the trailer for the game, so that if I just send that video around, people don't have to go searching down information on what they're looking at for the context of what it is, because it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it should be apparent, like what role they're going for or what job it is. If I'm looking at portfolio and I can't tell what job it's applied for, then it's probably not hitting the mark.
I think something else that I've seen along the same lines was all my work. Right. Even if it is highly focused and it's just environment design or environment art or something like that, it's everything I've ever done since I was 8. Yep. I'd rather see, now maybe 1 or 2 pieces is not quite enough, but I'd rather see 2 kick-ass pieces than 24 pieces that slowly degrade into crayons and refrigerator-worthy stuff, don't get me wrong, but I want to see the best, because that's what we're going to pull out of you when you're hired.
Yeah, completely. And for that, definitely take like your rudest, most obnoxious friend you have and have them make that evaluation for you, because you will always find a justification to put in that painting of that sunflower that you're really proud of, and you just shouldn't. So it really is less is more, higher quality.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. And also, like, I look at a lot of student portfolios that are saying, well, I put this 2D art thing in to show that I understand color and this and that. And, it's important to show that stuff, but you have to show it in the context of the job you're looking for. Like, your oil painting is not what I'm hiring you for. So it's just, it's good to know people are flexible, but a lot of that stuff comes out in the interview anyway, if you're a flexible person. So just adding in that 2D art that you did, that life drawing you did, it's just not, it seems like you're proud of it, and I agree, like, it's a good work, but it doesn't actually say anything about you for the specific job we're trying to hire you for.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is like, there can be work outside of the core work that does talk about other benefits, but unless that's readily apparent to a complete stranger, if you have to explain why you included it in the portfolio, it shouldn't be in the portfolio. So
I get that it's about the shotgun effect. I want to show somebody everything that I got. But the other side of it is that you do a little bit of research and you know what you're applying for. you can be forgiven if I just stumble across your Deviant Art website or just some sort of novel that you wrote or something like that. But knowing exactly what I'm hiring for, doing a little bit of research in the background of the work that's come before will help you focus, whatever you're bringing to that goes for resumes as well as art or anything else.
A good test for audio guys is, I'd like to bring in your meanest friend. You don't have to pick the meanest one, but pick a friend that you might like or not like. It doesn't matter. Just somebody. And then play your demo. And at the point where like sweat starts coming off of you and like you're reaching for that, trying to make excuses about like, oh, this part isn't finished on my demo. That's where it should end. That's where you should probably cut it off probably like 20 seconds before that. But if if you have the full length track on there and you're not happy with all of it, like chop that stuff up.
Yeah, and that's tough. It's like even in development, we coined a phrase when I was with EA that is like the letter to Timmy, right? And it's the fact that you don't get excuses. And when we're looking at the portfolio, like if there's text beside it, that's great and stuff like that. But we're pretty much looking at the work. And so if it's not apparent, if it's not like straight on for what the work is, then it's not going to be there. You're not going to get the little letter with Timmy in the box of like, oh, sorry, we had to hit this deadline for this, or hey, we wish this was this, or it was really planned to be this, and we didn't have time to change it. Like the minute you're making excuses toward it or trying to justify it, then you can already self-gauge that you've probably gone too far or not far enough as far as toward the quality bar goes. So the other thing I want to bring up is like, so you mentioned videos, right? So how are you guys like looking at stuff and what kind of portfolios are you looking at getting in and how does that work for your different departments? Like how do you want to see the work from the people?
I like videos. Well, I'll do what I don't like since this is a don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like videos of games that are already out there, especially AAA games, that you've redone the music and sound for. Why? Because yours probably sucks more than what the people who originally did it. I mean, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. It's like, oh, here's the Mass Effect trailer. Like, you're not going to beat that. You might. If you do, good for you. But I would say, like, you have like a 98% chance of failing. What would be better is to give me a video, of like maybe a game you've done that shows you like making the sound, how you made the sound, and then how you put it into the engine, and then show me what it looks like in the engine. I will look at that like 5 or 6 times and say, this guy knows what he's doing. He can record sounds, he can implement sounds, and here's the final product. Anybody can kind of slap library sounds onto a trailer that already exists. If you're gonna go the trailer route, pick a game that nobody knows about, or a movie that nobody knows about, or it's a little more B level, and then make that like A level sound, because the chances are the sound's probably not as good on that, and people won't already have their preconceived idea of what that should sound like. Agree?
Yes, agreed. I think that in design portfolios, we still do get videos of like reels of things I've worked on. But if you've made a game, just give me a link to play the game. You can put that stuff on itch.io. If you've made a full game, to your point, Chris, like execution is why we hire people. Everyone in this room has a million cool ideas for a video game. Those ideas aren't worth shit. Hello, this is the what not to do sad panel.
Yes.
Because we all have ideas, but if you can execute well on those ideas, that designer is worth their weight in gold. If you can sort of fix the engine while the car is in motion on the road, and you go, oh, oops, this isn't good, or oh, oops, this is broken, and you can come up with interesting solutions to those problems while in development, and finish a game and be like, it's done, I ship it. Like I walk away, I'm not working on it anymore. If you can extricate yourself from your game and say it's finished, here it is online, you can play it right now. That's the designer that I want to hire. Like I've made a game, I finished a game, I know what that like heartbreak is like when you're like halfway through and you're like, oh, this is awful, and you finish it anyway, and like it turns out to be good. That's the kind of designer that I want to hire. So videos are good, but you can't, because it's design, it's interactive, you can't replicate what your game is going to feel like to play. Like it looks impressive. This sort of puzzle mechanic in your platform seems really cool, but do you do interesting things with it? Is it just surface interesting? That's the stuff that will be told if you just put a link to the game somewhere online.
All right, so yeah, on the art side, it definitely has a very similar kind of feel. Like, so toward the video, short of animation, I actually hate seeing videos. Like, I don't want to sit through it. I don't want to do this other stuff. I want to see a screenshot that makes me want to see more, and then I want to click on it, and then I want to see more. I know, at least for myself and going through, is like, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I buy the DVDs only because they have that stuff. Otherwise, it's digital. Like I want to see the process. I want to see the stuff behind it. I mean, what I'm hiring is craftsmen, right? They have to be able to work within requirements, and they have to be able to deliver at a high quality bar, right? And so I want to see your process. I want to see these other things, but I don't want to be like flooded with that. Like, wow me with a piece, and then let me click on something, and then let me see and explore and go deeper kind of within that piece. And so taking everything, having no filter is horrible. Having it where it's like lost in a sea of nastiness is horrible. And then the process that you're doing, think about what you're trying to show. If it's gameplay, let them play, right? If it's music, let them hear it. For the most part, I don't turn audio on pretty much any of the things. So all that time you spent choosing which of your favorite songs from Nickelback that you put on your animation reel, completely lost. I'm looking at the animation specifically with my headphones off because it just kills me to have them on, because most people are not audio wizards. And so yeah, it's
Most people are not audio wizards. Like, you're pointing to me as a...
sorry, it's more exclusionary. Like, this is an audio wizard. Nobody else is an audio wizard is the way I would phrase that. But yeah, it's essentially like, to the focus of what you're doing, and make sure your presentation and everything about it is geared toward that. And it's one of the biggest pieces of advice is in the how-to section, I would say, is like for people in school, is if they're modeling or doing any kind of character modeling or environment modeling, is to make friends with the person who is the best lighter at your school, buy them lunches, buy them coffee, pretend their stories are interesting, and laugh at all their jokes, and then have them light your portfolio for you.
That's actually how games get made. That's the games industry. So you just get rid
It
of
totally is. It totally is. Lighters are pampered for that very reason. So.
I would say also, don't send me something that's not relevant to my company.
Oh, yeah.
If I look at your portfolio and it's anime, I'm going to close it down immediately and say, we don't do anime. Why would I even look at this?
I mean, in general, you shouldn't have any anime.
Definitely, but there's a lot of stuff with this. They apply to every position. They do this stuff. We get flags on the website, so we know how many positions you apply to. We know whether or not you're focused or not toward that. And sometimes some stuff crosses over, and there's definitely overlap. I've done a number of different positions, but for a lot of times it's like, okay, you applied for an animation position and there's no animation. And your reel or on your website or in any of this other stuff, you just wasted my time. I hate you. And then you move on, right?
You write their name down?
Yeah, never again. And I send it to all my friends. The entire industry knows about them. They're blackballed forever. No, it's not quite that bad. But so speaking
Just
of
on a one whiteboard.
yeah. So speaking of websites, though, pretty much everybody applies and they have a website at this point. Like, what have you guys seen? What do you guys hate? What is the biggest faux pas? What is the worst things that you guys see on websites all the time that just make you cringe?
I'm not going to get about websites quite yet, because I want to go back to the media part, which kind of goes into the website thing. But if you have CDs that you're like handing out, take all those and like make a cool sculpture out of them and like never hand them out again. Like, this is 2016. Send me a link to like SoundCloud. I don't care, like, or a, some kind of streaming media. I don't want a CD. I throw those or melt them, whichever one's better. Sometimes you can record them. They make this cool as they're melting. It's like anyway, so have a website.
Essentially, have a link to digital content.
Have a
Like we
website.
shouldn't have. I assumed it's 26. I assumed. So sorry, but yes, a link to
still get
digital
CDs.
content, a website, something that is specific that shows it off, that isn't your MySpace page. That would be great. So all right.
Oh, jeez, I gotta take my MySpace page down.
So I don't. So when hiring production or design in my past, and so first off, art and audio definitely has that sort of, I need some digital media to go off of. Design definitely can kind of go one way or the other. It's nice to have something to play. For production, and this is kind of like what to do, just a little bit, going to break the rules a little bit. Because the way I hire and the way I use producers, I'm interested in people that do a lot of different things. So, whereas I don't want it at the top of your resume, all your strange hobby, but I am actually interested in that strange hobby that you have, if it's like underwater photography or something like that. Because having that conversation has been very helpful to me to understand how it's like for you to source your own, when you have a very odd hobby, you need to kind of build it or build a community around it, you start using some of the muscles that production makes great, right? Building alignment, buying people lunch, finding others that are like-minded, and also getting other people excited about something that's a little bit weird. It's kind of like a one-off a little bit from your question, but I thought it kind of made a little bit of sense in since we're talking so much about digital audio media stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about websites now. Is that
Yeah.
that's the topic one? I've seen a lot of really great design websites that make me, like I said earlier, make me scroll forever because they want to give me their paper prototype drawings and their scratch cards and their whiteboard drawings and their like artistic statement and their thesis and their and that stuff's great to have because it is interesting, like you said, to like if I want to deep dive more and learn more about how you made this game, then that stuff's available. But a lot of times it'll just be on the main page with the link to the game and the video for the game. And so when you're scrolling through a page, especially if you're looking at someone's portfolio, you scroll until you hit the bottom of the page. It's just, you want to make sure you got everything. You don't want to like go off half-cocked. So you tend to scroll till you finish looking at the whole page. And if that page just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going, there's just big blocks of text with like one little like picture of like a scan of a piece of paper with some pen on it, and then like more text and more text and more text. Like, you start reading that and you go, oh my God, it keeps going. And you keep going, oh my God, it keeps going still. And that's on like every single game on your portfolio. That can just like emotionally be taxing and like just, it starts to strain you, even though it's all good that it's there. So I would recommend putting that stuff in a sub-page or having a link to that saying like, here's the single paragraph, here's the image that I think is interesting, here's like if it's a board game, here's a shot of some mechanic that I think is really cool in the game, and then say if you're interested in more, like click here and you can go to a different page or a sub-page or open up another page or something. But like, don't make me feel guilty for like clicking off your page halfway through reading, like halfway through scrolling because I can't take it anymore. Short and brief, as I think is probably going to be the theme throughout this entire talk, is going to help you a lot, because I will scroll to the end because I feel guilty for not doing that, but after I go, okay, cool, that was long, but I got through it, and you hit back again, it's like 7 more to go through, and you're like, no, okay, no way. So that would be my advice for a website.
Don't send me a broken link to your website.
Amen.
That's way better than mine.
That really, really annoys me. And then you're like, oh, wait, oops, sorry about my former email. Here's the correct link. I'm like, well, obviously you weren't paying attention. What makes me think that you're going to pay attention in your job?
Yep.
Yeah, the communication around that is huge. Like broken portfolios and having to send that back, it's already a negative connotation. But just God bless you for your patience, because I'll be honest, I don't scroll that far.
I did
don't
it once.
scroll that
I did
big.
it once.
It's like,
I was like, no more, I'm done. That's
yeah,
it.
I do look at what's there, and especially on the art side, there are so many good, basically hosting sites and different ways that are out there. Is don't feel the need to kind of reinvent it. You just basically want to show your work, and then allow me to kind of like see the right things. But how you present your work, how you do your website is huge. Like, we'll pass the portfolio around, and that's one of the first things is like, oh my goodness, have you seen this logo? Or oh my goodness, have you seen this header? Have you like, oh, why would they put that in there? And there's 2 reasons to get your portfolio passed around. One of those reasons is very good. Like, hey, this is really cool. What do you guys think? The other reason, which lasts longer and has a much bigger group of emails that it goes to, is, can you believe they did this? Or, oh my God, have you seen the digital work here? Which is really bad, and you don't want to be part of that crowd. And so the website, I think, is hugely important. Again, it's your identity and kind of your brand. If I know most schools, you have to create your own little logo that identifies you, that you used to put on like VHS and then CDs and then DVDs and then hopefully now a website. But like, unless you're a logo designer and it's amazing, it shouldn't be like plastered everywhere and go through that. Like, identify yourself with the work that's actually the best.
It takes up like the top quarter of the resume. It's like the names are really big and there's this gigantic logo and everything else is like really tiny. You can't read any of it.
Yeah, you're not a company, but you are identified by the work you do, right? And so make sure that that work is the thing that I see first, that I identify worth. Well, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you see this, work that this guy did? Or, did you see, this battle axe and stuff? It looks awesome. Don't be the guy that's like, oh my goodness, like this is the worst logo I've seen since the 80s,
I also think that like just make that work easy to get to. Back in like the early aughts, it was like hot to have like a flash intro, like an animated intro, and like sliding. Everything was like sliding around, and it's really sexy. Like none of that. Like no one gives a shit about that stuff, man. Just make your work really easy to find. Don't make us sit through some weird little like animation at the beginning, and you don't have to get fancy with it because, like you said, we're there for the work. Like we're there to see your work. That's what's going to speak for you. So it's cool. Like a lot of the websites you can go to like Squarespace and stuff that have like a thing you just toss your images into and it sets it up on a grid for you, and a lot of those will do kind of like sexy little slides and stuff like that, and that's fine. I'm not saying not to do that, but like that's not going to replace good work in your portfolio, and also don't make us sit through a thing we can't skip. You know what I mean? Like just that stuff gets really old really fast.
Yeah, and I made this mistake. Like I'll come straight out and say that I had a Flash website.
So did I. So I totally did too. I did.
And it wasn't until I realized, like every single time I was showing it to somebody or talking to somebody, I was explaining, which was true, that I had used it to learn Flash script and some scripting stuff behind it to do it. It's, where you put your focus, where you put your time, it's the same thing. Find a lighter, buy them lunch, let them light for you. Have somebody that knows audio deal with your audio stuff. Like, focus on the thing you're actually going to get hired for. The more time you put into the rest, it's important. Anything you put in there is presentation, and you're going to be judged harshly on. Get people who know what they're doing to do it. You don't have to be excellent at everything. In fact, most people aren't excellent at anything, and everything you're not excellent at is just detracting from the thing that you are really good at and may get hired for.
Also, like invest in a domain name and like an adult style email address.
Very adult style.
Not like, your mom at AOL.com. Like no AOL email addresses. The Gmail's fine probably, but AOL.
One of my favorite questions, and I stole this from Todd Howard in an email, in an interview, is, so what's your gamer tag?
That's harsh.
It's really embarrassing, awful stuff.
Everybody,
Enemy we Lord 420.
Yeah. And we
no
pass
seeds, please.
We pass around
I got that
links.
one.
We don't pass around names. And so when people refer to you, they're often referring to you by whatever your website link name is, which can be its own brand of humor. So so definitely adult and presentation with that. So with that, as far as like professional and kind of the branding and individual branding, it's like, people are still applying online through websites. They still have business cards. They still have resumes. What are you guys seeing in that area that is like your kind of immediate kind of turn off or shut down or close them out or hit pass? And we'll start on the far side this time.
Don't start with me.
Okay, we will start way over here, everybody. So,
We're in the middle.
I would start. Here's an example. I'm going to rant on this on Monday or Sunday, but here's the type of email I get. I am fill in the name. I write awesome blah blah blah. Check out my links. Thank you. No, it doesn't say thank you. It just has your name. So that's it. Like there's no like action at all to the email. It's just like here's like my stuff, signed blah blah blah. I'm gonna rock your world kind of thing. It's like this is not gonna happen. So those are immediately deleted. So that's for me. There's something wrong with I would say musicians and composers more than anybody else, but I would lump sound designers into that.
no, artists is
But
like
they
that
have-
too. Artists, designers, they're
Yeah.
all bad.
Write like
You're all bad.
coherent English, complete sentences
Yes.
in a professional manner.
Yeah.
It is
When-
not a text message.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the biggest thing.
Real words, real punctuation.
Yeah, spelling, especially if you're copying words from the application, like at least spell them the right way. So,
You should actually start
Spell
speaking-
check.
spell like typos into those applications to see if people are copying and pasting them.
yes.
Wait, has anybody here gotten an email that along these lines that used a like text speech or something like that, or
Oh,
like
yeah.
to, or
Have you really?
Have we?
you are.
Oh,
have
oh
you?
yeah.
There's
Like, I'll
ones where
hope-
Oh, yeah.
There's ones where I couldn't tell.
You're
so.
happy
You
with
are.
my, yeah.
Oh,
smiley
yes.
face. Smile.
Yeah.
Really?
They
Smiley face. I've got
Yes.
smiley faces.
They get
Emoticons,
deleted
they're
very
huge.
fast.
Really?
So,
Yeah, no smiley faces
Okay.
in your job applications, please.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say don't do that. Yeah.
I mean, the general
This
case
is
with a lot
ATL,
of that
man.
is like, you know, people like I've
They pop
had,
up in here.
yeah, just very, very, very out there kind of thing. And the only thing I can think in my head is like this person really wants to stand out from the crowd. And maybe that's true, but like the best way to do that is actually with your work. If you're writing a letter that makes me like look stuff up on the internet or try to figure that kind of stuff out, or it's just like, wow, why does this person act like they're my best friend for like the 15 years or whatever? It's just that's off-putting. It's there's nothing.
The expectation that a new hire might have come in and think it's okay to act too informally and not respect the fact that it is a job and that you got to show up on time, and sometimes you got to do job-like stuff.
I was going to say also, don't send me an email where I have to read through 2 or 3 paragraphs of how you've loved video games since you were 6 years old and they're your passion and you love to play. I figure if you're trying to get a job in the industry that you like video games. I think that's kind of a given. So don't make me sit there and read through all of that because it just automatically goes into another bin. I'm like, I'm tired of reading this. I'm bored. I'll move on.
Yeah.
Passion does not make up for talent.
Yeah, that's and hard work definitely, and the show of the quality with it. Like for me, like it's basically a filter of no's, right? And so whether it's looking at the portfolio or looking at this other stuff, it's reasons, at least for the first pass, it's reasons to say no to the person or to pass them along. And it's honestly, it's like if I see a reason to pass on a portfolio, I will. Right, because I'm making a judgment that person has put their best effort to show the best they can going forward, and so even if some of their work is okay, their judgment's worse than the next person down. And what I need artists that can not only do high quality work, but also can make good judgment calls when it comes to what to include in the game, what to not include, how to interpret concept art, and do these things. And so anything you put in your portfolio, in your resume, in your cover letter, or any of these other things applies to that. That said, I don't read the resume first. I don't read the cover letter first, and I don't know if I'm an exception in that way, is I look for a link and I click it because that is the fastest way to hit no on somebody. And then once I'm like, oh, that's interesting, let's see what they've done before. Then I look at the resume and I say, oh, okay, what kind of experience do they have, or what if they have experience, or what else do they do that makes it qualified? And if there's any reason to say no there, I say no there. And then finally, if I'm not just wild and like, oh yeah, please let me talk to this person already, then I'll look at the cover letter and then see how they kind of approach it, how they talk to the people. I also actually look to the comments of how they're dealing with our HR recruiter and how they do the back and forth with the people that are planning their flights and doing the rest of the stuff around the interviews as well. Because from my standpoint, we're bringing somebody in. It's like family. We work a lot. We work together a lot. We collaborate a lot. I want people that are genuinely good and not just being nice because they know I'm the person that's going to hire them.
I hope cover letters go out of fashion because I hate cover letters. I hate writing them.
Yeah.
I hate reading them because it's always the same thing, right? It's like, I love your company and I love what you do and I really want to work with you. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
To be fair, spell the company name right. Make sure it has the right company name, that you list the games they actually made, and that there's some relevance to the actual company and the position you're applying to. Because there's been a number of times I've been like, oh, okay, this person's really good. Oh, look, they're really interested in what we did. We didn't make that game at all. Wow, what are they talking about now?
They
Is
just
this
like copied and
paste?
pasted. They just like copy pasted
Yeah.
the same. Don't copy and paste ever. Just rewrite from the beginning, even if it's 90% the same, because you will screw up and you'll put like Riot's name in and you'll accidentally apply it to Blizzard or whatever and just look like an idiot. And that happens a lot. So just write it again.
Do you guys get the emails that are to you and to 100 other companies at the same time?
Learn how to BCC.
Yeah, line carbon copy.
Actually, don't do that because it says BCC on it. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, send them individually because we can tell. We're like, okay, well, obviously you're just trying to find a job anywhere. You don't care about a company, so pass.
Speaking of that, and when you're dealing with a specific company, so once somebody gets past that, once they get past the initial application, initial referral, and everything else, phone interviews. Like, that's usually the first thing, right? Is like, if you have an in-house recruiter, they do kind of a phone interview and filtering as well with that usually, but also the phone interviews, with the manager or with whoever's in the company. Like, what have you guys seen on that side where people are like, man, they finally got it. They got to that next stage. They're finally being judged at that, and they blew it.
When they're just a
do
dud on the phone. Yeah, if you can't hold a conversation, then you're not going to get through the phone interview. At least have basic skills. 'Cause that's the first line of defense for us, is they're trying to talk to you and just kind of gauge your personality a little bit, talk about some of the technical skills that you have. When we get you in, that's when we'll be able to look at everything. But that would be, the first line there is be able to talk.
Yeah, definitely. There's a range of acceptance, I think, on being able to talk, but I would expect somebody that I'm hiring as a manager to be quite engaging, even on the phone, because soft skills and people skills are part of that responsibility. On the other side, I would understand if there's maybe a little bit more introverted personality if I'm talking to an artist. But still, don't sound bored or like you're about to fall asleep. I would recommend standing up. Some people even dress up for phone interviews to get themselves in the mode. But I cannot verify because I didn't hire this person, but I'm positive that he was laying down in bed. I'm positive of it.
Hey, you like art? And you're like,
Is it?
yeah. That's all he said to say.
Rustle around
TV
on
in the
pillow.
background?
Yeah.
So that was a quick no.
Yes. So, I mean, it definitely is the same, and like, while yes, there's definitely personality types and how outgoing you are. I want to hire passionate people, and so I expect it to be something that if I'm talking about games, or if I'm talking about art, or if I'm talking about your discipline, that it's something engaging enough to pull you out of that shell. And so, you don't have to necessarily carry the conversation. I've got questions, and I can handle that part of it. But I do expect to have a level of interaction. You should have questions, because as much as interviews are about finding the right person to bring in and add to the kind of the family of the studio, it's also about, like, the candidate judging if that family is one that they want to be part of, right? And so that's what I want to see. I want to see from the candidate that they have that same level of interest, that they have that same thing. I think standing up is awesome, like, because I'm the same way. It's like, if they sound down, if they sound, whatever, okay, kind of thing. Like, there's nothing about that kind of takes away. And I heard once from a recruiter, which I actually now think is completely and totally true, is that a phone interview is mostly about, like, personality and fit and everything else, even more so than obviously the portfolio portion and the evaluation ahead of time, and even more so than the on-site interview afterwards. The phone interview, above all else, is basically whether or not this is a type of person that you want to work with and bring in-house. And so anything you're doing, if you're watching TV or playing games or eating or anything like that, you're doing it wrong. Like, definitely don't do that. Same thing applies, though. You should know the name of the company. You should know who you're talking to. You should know what games they make. Plan, even if you're not a gamer. You don't have to be a gamer to be in the games industry. You should be. But you don't have to be a gamer to be in the industry, but you should be familiar with the games they made. And the answer that, like, oh, yeah, I was planning on checking that out, all that tells me is that you procrastinate, you're not on top of things, you're not self-driven, and you don't really care enough to be part of my team, at least. So.
Take it from the freelancer perspective, we don't have to do phone interviews, but it's a little more reversed, where the demos I'm doing are because I have already met the person and somehow established that we could work together. So the big part, even though I'm pretty introverted, I make it a point to go and kind of be a cool guy, like, to other people, because you're going to be working with those people. And you have to, one reason why I'm in Atlanta versus Hollywood is I never wanted to be that guy. I didn't want to be let me go shake hands and, like, kiss ass and all that kind of stuff. But there's still an amount of that you have to do. You have to make friends. And I'm not saying, like, make fake friends like I do with Thomas, but, like, make actual friends, invite them to the
I was
bar,
wondering why it was so bad.
buy them drinks, just be a good guy to work with, and the chances are they're going to think of you later when there's like, hey, we did a composer. That Chris guy is kind of cool. He's cool to hang out with. Let's get a demo from him, and then it goes from there. So it's kind of reversed where there's not a phone interview, but you're interviewing from the moment that you meet these people.
Don't underestimate. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't underestimate the importance of social skills. If you have the opportunity to engage, interact, conventions like this, or you get flown out, you want to be able to take advantage of that. And even if it's not necessarily your strong suit, be ready for it and have read a book on how to make small talk. I don't know. There's something like that out there, but it is huge. Games is so collaborative. That's one of the things that I'm always looking for, no matter what your discipline.
Yeah, so I definitely want to hit conferences, and maybe we'll hit that next, because obviously
We're at
this is
one.
an opportunity and the weekend, and there's definitely things that people have done and continue to do that basically will keep them from ever getting a job at conferences.
Yes.
But I do want to extend it, a phone interview definitely as well, but also it's like when you get that opportunity, when you're being flown in on site, or when you're driving down or doing whatever and stuff, like when you have that opportunity to meet the people in person and do the on-site interview, I want to kind of expand it to kind of what you guys have seen for that as well.
I honestly, when I first got interviewed at Telltale Games, they flew me out, and I did the day, I spent the day with them. I got to know everybody. Excuse me. And at the end of the day, they offered me the job, and they really basically said, we were going to hire you before we brought you out, but we flew you out for the on-site to just make sure you weren't a crazy person, which is kind of the point of a lot of those. At that point, if you're in the door and they're willing to either fly you out or do that much work, they're probably pretty interested in you. And at that point, you don't have to feel too nervous and just be yourself and just be as normal as you can pretend to be, in my case. So just get to know people and just talk about anything you want. You don't have to, you're not, it is an interview, and they're going to probably ask you to solve some problems on a whiteboard, depending on the job you get, et cetera, et cetera. But you don't, it is really a test of personality. Is this someone we want to include in the family? Is this someone I can see, working with when things are really stressful, when you're sort of in that crunch period where you're trying to get things done and it's really late? And, is this someone that you think you could sort of rely on and spend a lot of time? Because you're going to spend a lot of time with these people. So, like I said, I don't want to under sort of mind how important it is to be able to perform in those interviews and get on a whiteboard and talk very eloquently about how to problem solve depending on the job you're going to do. But it really is at that point is this person a crazy person or not interview. So I would just focus on speaking clearly, not going on crazy rants about stuff, or going off on weird tangents that go on for an hour about the shooting mechanic in GTA 5 or whatever, unless they ask you about that. And it really just it is a personality test. So as you guys already said.
So I would say is especially with the on-site, right? There's certain questions you can expect to hear. If you plan on talking about things, expect to hear what's your favorite game, or what inspires you, or what is your favorite piece. Be prepared to talk about the work you've done, the games that you've been on, right? The worst thing you can do is not be able to talk about something that you apparently are extremely passionate and totally love. So if you tell me that Dust is your favorite map of all time, but don't remember it and can't explain to me why it works or why it doesn't work or what you would do to change it or anything else, that's not a good sign, right? Same thing for your portfolio piece, right? If you tell me it's okay, I think this is the best thing in my portfolio, but you can't explain why, then that's problematic as well. You need to be, not only have an opinion and have, kind of the personality and the tone toward that, but you need to have that analytical thought process of I thought about this, I've actually gone into this, I know why I'm doing this versus doing this. What sets me apart from a person who just merely likes to play games to the point where I can actually evaluate or drive to the point of being a creator of games or a portion of it. And especially with artists, it's I want to know what do you think is quality? Why do you think it's quality? And being able to answer those whys. I mean, everybody in the games industry at its core, and I've said this they're problem solvers, regardless of programmer, artist, audio designer, anything else. It's the situation is always changing, and you're solving problems, whether it's creatively, whether it's visually, what these different areas are. And so when somebody comes on site, or when I'm talking to them even with a phone interview, I'm evaluating is Are they smart? Can they take, things? Can they actually break down? Or are they just going by gut instinct? Because gut instinct will take you so far, but it's a very, very shallow road compared to somebody who's willing to work hard, has passion, and can actually mentally break down the different areas and explain and think about critically why something is better than something else.
Yep. I mean, like you said, like I when I interviewed at Hangar 13, they asked me to say, like, okay, here's a scenario. We're going to introduce a new enemy type that you've never seen before. On a whiteboard, draw how you would sort of like lay out the level to properly tutorialize this thing. And I had to, on the spot, to come up with that stuff. But you have to explain very eloquently not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it, what you think the player's thinking about. This is design, obviously, but like, what's the player thinking about? Why are you doing it this way? Why are you drawing the level in such a fashion? What is the enemy type? And they want to know that you can pick apart how that stuff works on a sort of like micro level, because that's what you're going to be doing every moment of your job is like, I'm going to place this one guy here and turn him this way because I think the player's going to come from this angle and blah, blah, blah. Like, that is what the job is. So exactly to your point, like, you have to be able to speak to why you are making specific choices in the room, on the spot.
Yeah. And then as far as toward the focus of this panel and what not to do, like obviously anything that drives against that is there, where, I don't know, it's fine, or I think it's pretty. Like anything is like, I mean, know how to do a critique, know how to do that stuff, become critical, study your craft. And anything that shows that you don't study the craft, that you don't respect the craft, that you don't understand it, you haven't done research, you don't know anything about the games that you're even applying to work on, or that kind of stuff is an instant kind of out the door. And this is a very popular one, and I think this applies to almost any industry, and it's been lamented, a lot, but is also ask questions. Like, one of the best strategies you can have in an interview or in any kind of thing is to ask questions that show that you're actually engaged, that you're actually, questioning what's going on, and that you're interested, and that you have an understanding of what's going on. It's a back and forth. It's a dialogue. It's not a 20 questions, portion from just the interviewer standpoint.
I think it's easy to get caught up in an interview and say, okay, just don't screw it up and I'll get a job in the games industry. But if you can turn on the interview in the other direction, because just as Thomas said, you're going to spend a lot of time with these people. So go ahead and ask some questions, get yourself familiar and comfortable with them as well. Ask questions about what the day is like and what the interactions are like. Just get a sense of the place. Get a sense of the place itself rather than just trying to constantly sell yourself, because I've seen plenty of people show up and go, man, if I just asked a couple of questions, I never would have taken this job. Very good things. Also, I wanted to say, do we need to cover showers, haircuts, clean clothes?
That applies
Please
after
take
you're hired as well.
That's true.
But yeah, like those are definitely huge. Like,
Yeah.
Cover them, yes,
you're
please
judged
cover
by
them.
all
Yes.
things.
So I have seen, and this is one of those things that I don't think I ever would have believed that this would actually happen, but I've definitely seen and otherwise sensed poor choices, I think I'll say. So, clean yourself up, get a haircut.
Please wear deodorant.
Wear deodorant, brush your teeth.
Like you said, it's an industry that's pretty lax, and like
Right.
you wear a t-shirt and sandals and stuff, but you still have to be clean.
Yeah.
For God's sakes.
If you're gonna wear a t-shirt to an interview, that's cool. I would try to encourage you to wear one closer to the newer side than the older side of your closet or your drawers.
It's
And if you
generally,
want to wear a shirt, like with a collared shirt, this is actually just a straight up pet peeve. I'm gonna go to an interview and I'm gonna wear a collared shirt because that's what my mom told me is nice. So I buy a brand new collared shirt and I take the pins out and I unfold it and I put it on and I walk into my interview.
It's got all the creases on it. Yeah.
You gotta iron that shit.
Yes.
It does. That's the worst. Do you
take
look
it to a dry cleaner. 99 cents. You're
99
good.
cents and
It's
you were
fine.
golden.
So.
When I see the nice the cardboard square in the back of somebody's.
Yeah.
You just pull it out and say, hey, let me just get that for you.
Like showing off a little bit of your personality, either through your wardrobe or through your demeanor, I think is fine. But generally, I would dress one step above. So it's like if your general case is like, oh, it's casual, it's this or that, just take one step up. It is an interview. And even though I might be there in a t-shirt and jeans or whatever and stuff like that, I'm not interviewing. And so, like, there is a context that kind of goes with that. That said, I would not show up in a suit if you're planning on, like, you don't want to be identified as that person for forever. So just, again, it's like anything else. It's like making that judgment call, and then you're being judged based on the amount of judgment you have. So, definitely talk about that. So we are at an event. We are at a conference, right? And I definitely want to talk about how some people may leave a negative impression, or how they may like completely and totally shut down future chances at a conference. But I do want to include, because I guess we're being live streamed at this moment, this too, and there's a lot of like communities, right? Like, sorry. Oh, by the way, guys, the camera's right over there. Say hi.
What? That would have been awesome.
Yeah. So, So in general, those like there's a lot of online communities now, and like Polycount and different things, which are a great way to make friends and socialize and interact with people. There's also a number of people who contact people through Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and a bunch of other social media. So I do want to expand this. I want to talk about conferences, but I want to open it up to you guys as far as like social media as well, because I think that's almost even more prevalent.
Okay, well, first, conferences. If we're at a place like GDC, we have a big banner that says Tripwire. It shows what our games are. Don't walk up to me and say, "What company are you? What do you guys do?" I will immediately tell you to leave, because I have no patience for that.
Probably like late in the afternoon, you've seen hundreds of people.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been known to tell them to leave. I just get tired of it. After a while, we've been there all day. Look us up on your phone. I would say 99% of people, especially in our industry, have a swing. Just stand back, take 5 minutes to look us up, and then go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Strike a short, quick, but nice conversation. Just stand there staring at me, because that's not going to get
Does that
you
really
anywhere.
happen? Really? Staring?
That's happened quite a few times. They just stand there and stare, and that's not going to get you anywhere either. Social media.
Hire that staring guy. Hire that staring guy.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's
Exactly.
focused. It's like, we can do this. So it's good.
There's been a few times I'd be like, "Okay, so talk,
Right.
and your name is," so don't make me pull it out of you. Social media, don't find me on Facebook, especially don't find me on Facebook, because that's going to make me mad. Don't try to find me on LinkedIn. Well, I guess you can find me on LinkedIn, but for me, I don't want you trying to connect with me on LinkedIn unless we are actually in business together. I know some people say, "Hey, let's connect," but I'm not a straight recruiter, and so that's not what I want to do.
And yeah, I think that I think is a good point, and we'll probably hear more as far as for the individual preferences on this. Is different people have different borders that they put around stuff. For some people, Facebook is only family if they have it at all, and LinkedIn is only people that they actually know are professional. It's not a connection tool, as it is with a lot of people, and same thing for like Twitter. It's like, oh no, that's my social crowd or not and stuff. So finding like what area or what thing is the one. It's like, for me, Facebook is much more family. I don't know anybody on my Facebook that I don't actually know in real life. Even some of my best friends that are online only are not on my Facebook because I don't know them in real life, right? Twitter is definitely much more like social. It's, you can follow me, whatever, and it's professional, and the thing's going to go through that. And then LinkedIn.
You have people follow you on Twitter?
The what?
You have people follow you on Twitter?
I think they're real.
I thought it was all bots.
It's mostly bots. It's mostly bots, but they're my favorite bots.
Oh, okay.
So it's okay. But yeah, so I think definitely being sensitive to that, talking to people, finding out if somebody tells you this is how you contact me, do not try to correct them or try to get another point of contact from them. If I'm not giving you my email address, it's because I'm not giving you my email address, not because it's like, oh yeah, I just forgot to give you that. So
on the conference side, for me, I think the biggest mistake that, again, it's composers, sometimes sound designers, probably everybody though, is they're trying to close the deal in that conversation. It's like, here's my demo, here's my stuff, what kind of positions do you have? I'm awesome, check out this SoundCloud link, and then they walk away.
Here's my DVD.
Exactly. Here's my DVD to carry around now. Have a normal conversation with people and try to maybe ask questions and then listen to the answers to the questions, and then continue the back and forth instead of making it one-sided. I even ask questions about things that have nothing to do with their job, because that's more interesting to me, is like, hey, what do you like to do for fun? Where did you get that t-shirt? Why do you smell like this? You know, stuff that will get them to say something besides like, oh, I'm a composer, please hire me, here's my stuff. And then you get that card, and now you have something to talk about later, and eventually that grows into a friendship, and that later grows into a business. And
If
then
it's a
you-
true friendship.
And then it turns into like a Ferrari, and then
Exactly.
you're golden.
I think that the number one thing that happens, and I probably made this mistake when I was young, like, don't ask for favors. Don't ask for jobs and favors and stuff of people you just met. People are really, really, really good at knowing when you're trying to get something out of them or just schmoozing them for a thing. You're not actually interested in what you're saying, like what Chris said. Like, it's okay to just make a friend and network with people, even if it's other students or people that you don't think can do anything for you right now. Like, you just meet cool people, and then eventually they end up being at Microsoft or they end up working at wherever. And then you're like, oh, cool, my buddy works over there. That's awesome. Well, maybe if I'm looking for a job, I can ping him, but he knows that I'm not just his buddy to get something out of him. And that happens so often, and I'm sure I did the same thing to people when I was trying to get into the industry. Just make friends, network with people. Don't make them feel like they're just an asset to be used by them, but by you. Because people can tell, and it's really obvious, and especially if you've been in the industry for a while or you've had people do it a lot, it just gets really tiresome and really obvious really quickly. So it's okay to just meet people and just be their friend for a while before you have any reason to be their friend.
Yeah, I think to me that's probably like hitting it on the nail. Is whether it's an online community or in person, is that for the most part, if your relationship with me is about getting a job, then make it about getting a job. I'd much rather somebody come up to me and be like, hey, can you look at my portfolio, or here, I want to apply. I'll probably say, hey, we have a website that is dedicated to applying, or something along those lines. But like, that can be fine, and that can be an interaction, right? If you're interested in being social, making network, connections and stuff, which is good, then that's fine. But I don't want that pressure of like, oh no, okay, they're just here because they want me to hire them or something. And I don't want it to turn into that. And if you tell me it's like, oh, well, what I really want is like, about my portfolio, or can you do this, or can you mentor me? And then it's like, okay, that's fine. And then it's like 3 conversations in, you're no longer asking me questions about your work. You're now asking me questions about when you can start. That's a big turnoff, like from that standpoint. And so my recommendation from that is just to avoid it. Is like, I know it's tough, and it's tough to not reek of desperation when you are desperate, but like, honestly, just learn. I mean, you're going to be a student of the craft your entire life anyway. You might as well embrace it and be a student all the way through. If you focus on learning, if you focus on the passion, if you focus on what you can do to be better, and the fact that you know somebody, or you met somebody, or you can talk to somebody that within their time and within their patience and within their kind of allotment of generosity that you can learn from, enjoy that and enjoy that. If something comes of that, then that's great. Like, it's like, it's like fishing. Just enjoy the experience of being on the water. If you actually want to catch a fish, if you're focused on it too much, you're going to drive yourself nuts and the fish nuts.
And it's a muscle, right? Like, it's a muscle to stretch, like any other thing, like learning the piano, like social interaction. You don't have to be great at it, even if you're kind of a little awkward or whatever, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the other thing I would say is know when to gracefully exit a conversation.
That was mine.
Okay, I'll let you do it. You take it.
So
I love conferences. I like to just stand out there in the hallway and just see people and have people come up and talk to me, or just see somebody standing there and then talk to them and be like, "This is great." Have a couple of questions that you want to ask just generically. The cool thing about a conference is you could walk right to the next guy and ask the exact same questions and have the exact same conversation, and it's cool. You're making these connections, but knowing how to get out of the conversation, especially depending if you're going and looking for the job, right? You want to be able to get out of that conversation. Figure that one out. Everybody's going to have their own style, but boy, I wish. Actually, could we broadcast this to everybody on the planet? know how to get out of a conversation. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you. I'll talk to you later.
Leave on a
Walk
good
away.
note.
That's okay.
Yes, yes, not awkward. So, speaking of leaving on a good note, so I've gotten some motions from the back. I know we started a little bit late. I'm not sure how much time we have for questions, if any. But we started like 10 after, so 3 questions. So the first 3 people that get to this microphone can ask questions. There's one person who cares about a future in games industry here, and then we have 3. All right. No. 1 question each. So, well, and then these guys will be available throughout the rest of the evening to answer questions or anything else you want, or if you want to just come chat with them for the rest of this time. So, all right, go ahead.
This presentation has given me a bit of a doom and gloom outlook on.
Good.
What am I supposed to do?
Did you miss the intro?
What am I supposed to do if I'm a crazy, antisocial, disorganized anime artist? Surely somebody's actually hiring those. Because there's a lot of anime games being made, and there's a lot of existing employees who are antisocial and disorganized.
You should talk to the guy in the front row who can get you hired somewhere with that needs that.
Okay, I'll talk
Those
to him.
there are places that will hire.
There's somebody for everyone,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like again, I think it comes down to it is focus to what you're good at and what you're actually applying toward, and make sure it has to be a fit both ways. And so, if a doom and gloom anime, is
Well,
not
doom and gloom. You guys are the doom and gloom.
what? No,
I'm just
no,
disorganized
we're
and
happy people.
antisocial.
Yeah, so,
Well, you're gonna have
okay,
to be
antisocial.
organized. You're gonna have to learn to be organized. Antisocial's fine. Most good programmers are. That's fine, but you do have to be organized, and you have to be. They're going to pay you to show up at 9 o'clock. You have to show up at 9 o'clock. So, but there's always going to be a place that wants the specific art style you're looking for. If you only want to do that one art style, you can always find a place. The internet is large. So, Chris,
I would say if you're self-aware to have those traits, also be self-aware enough that you're going to have to stretch yourself into uncomfortable situations to get past that to where you can go back. Not you specifically, but
So just keep trying and hang in there.
Well, these are
the immersion
everything we've said are probably mistakes we made ourselves.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we came out all right. So I mean, it's you just got
Well,
to
and don't
work.
give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other do not do is like don't give up. Okay, literally apply everywhere. Like I went to GDC 2010 and gave my resume to every single company, and Telltale's the only one that gave me a call back. So like, it can happen. So just don't be too proud. Take a job. If they give you a job and it's your first job, you don't have any experience, take the job. Even if it's QA, even if it's making coffee. Like one of our designers at Hangar 13 used to be a studio operations assistant who used to order us lunch. Like there's nothing saying you can't get in from there. So never give up is the long way of saying that.
Yeah, and it's tough. There's so many unique stories about people who got into the games industry, and probably even within this panel. Like what we're telling is a lot of our own mistakes, a lot of the mistakes we see, and it's a general kind of approach. It's bettering your odds, but it doesn't mean it's the only thing. That said, there are more people trying to get into the industry now than there ever has been before, and it is a difficult industry to get into, and it is not something to casually fall into. And so if it's something you're passionate about and really willing to work toward, there are things you can do to be better at it, and have a higher likelihood of getting in the industry. And some people will do those things and probably have a better percentage chance of getting into the industry at some point, and some people won't. So, but that, like, schoolwork, like, with basically any faction of life is, like, really comes down to what you choose to do and what you choose to set aside your own personal comfort or personal, like, set that you can feel comfortable doing and feel, like, true to yourself doing that gets you where you need to go.
All right, thanks. I don't want to take up any more.
This is a little bit more directed towards Chris, but even towards the whole panel itself. I'm actually a voice actor and have looked to enter into the gaming development and gaming aspect of it. I've done a lot more commercial and film, but I've always had a true passion for games. What would you recommend to a voice actor that is looking to dive into this type of industry category?
Make funny sounds.
I mean, for voice actors, it's all about the agent. Like every game that I go through, I go to an agent and they cast them. And so get an agent that's focused on video games.
Specifically that one, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I use Okatron 5000 out of Dallas, and they do animation and they do games. And it's sometimes I use PCB down in LA, but they all have agents working for them too. So just find an agent that will put your name out on all these cattle calls.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And then I'm assuming that kind of goes for,
Yeah,
each
absolutely. I
industry,
mean,
so, yeah.
Telltale was used Stars and Mary Collins, and it's
Yeah.
all through agencies.
Okay.
We don't find anybody unless it's like we need a 10-year-old boy from the South. Okay, well we have a friend of ours there, the kid that can do it. Otherwise, it's 100% agencies.
Okay.
We've used Mary Collins too, so I guess
Mary
that's
Collins,
a
great. Yeah, for sure.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Tony, and I'm a game design developer at KSU. What I wanted to know is that, the game design industry is so vast. You have designers, animators, people who do music. And as a game designer specifically, what do you think is the best aspect of a designer that could possibly get him into the industry?
Make a whole bunch of bad games. No, for real. Like I said earlier, like designers that can take an idea and finish it and be done with it is super, super valuable. So I want to see that you've made a bunch of games. It's easy to be the game designer who makes a bunch of game design documents and then doesn't do anything with them. That's easy. That's the easy part. That's the easy, fun part. The hard part and the difficult, challenging part is to finish a game. Even if it's text-based, if you don't have any artist friends or you're not an artist, that's okay. You can either use sprites from online or you can make a text game or whatever. But I need to see that a designer can take an object, or take a game rather, from idea, from game design doc, all the way to completion. So you're going to make a bunch of games and most of them are going to be bad, and that's okay because you get better every time you make a game. So just show that you can create games. You can talk about them intelligently, as we sort of said earlier. You can talk about the decisions you made, why you made them, what you've learned from that project, what you applied to the next project, like the things that you learned and what you realized, oh, well, I thought the player would really enjoy this mechanic, and it turns out they hate that. Like that kind of thing, that it shows that you understand player motivation and player like the psychology of players and stuff. So it really just comes down to making a whole bunch of games and then just show the best 3 or 4 that you've got.
Yeah, and that's great. Analytical problem solvers across the industry. Within your field, if you want the job, do the job, right? And that means like not just painting the fully illustrated, marketing piece as your concept artist, but all the way back to the ideation and all the pieces, and that applies, across the board to pretty much every industry. So. But thank you guys so much for showing up. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned a few things to avoid in your quest to become part of the games industry. So thank you, and we are wrapped.